Hello lovely humans, and welcome back to my channel. This week's I don't even know why I feel called to make this video. In fact, I know sharing some of this stuff is just gonna suck, but I also want others who might be going through this to feel less alone. We have been trying for a baby for about 2.5 years now, and it's been really hard. That's a long time. So if you'll indulge me, I'm gonna kind of walk you through a story time of sorts, but also share just some things that I've learned. Because if you're going through this, it might help. Clearly it hasn't been successful for us yet, but I feel like regardless of the outcome at the end of the day, we are making really, really healthy strides for our whole family. So even if you're not in a place where you're struggling with this as well, these could be just some helpful suggestions in case you do want to try to conceive in the future. It was around the end of 2018 that we decided that we were gonna try for baby number 4. Probably September or October of 2018 that we decided we were gonna try for baby number 4, which was right around the time when I heard about something called the last 90 challenge, where instead of having a New Year's resolution, the last 90 days, you would commit to doing one thing, just making one change. And so I had kind of known that what you consume could affect fertility. So I was like, you know, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm actually going to see if I can cut out high fructose corn syrup. I'm just gonna see if I can cut it out. I know it's a GMO and I would prefer to not consume that, especially if it's going to impair our ability to have another kid. So that caused me to read a bunch of labels just because I was looking for that one ingredient. And then of course, as you start to read labels and you get into the habit of it, like you start to learn a lot more or go, what is that? Why can't I read that? Why can't I understand that? But it really just caused me to become familiar with the food that myself and my family were consuming. And of course, I'd love to say that cutting out that one thing all of a sudden proved successful, but obviously it didn't. So after a few months of that, I started to research a little bit further. I had heard from there's someone I follow, her name's Alex Conjolier. She's actually married to Phil, who I went to high school with. Yeah, let's make claim to fame. I know Phil from like FCA from high school, it's fine. And they have been really open and vulnerable about their trying to conceive journey, about their infertility, which is kind of one of the reasons that I'm even talking about this now, is because how honest and open they've been. And one thing that her fertility doctor recommended was to cut out toxins in cleaning products and in beauty products and skincare, shampoo, conditioner. Just do your best to start cutting some of that stuff out. And so, like a dog with a bone, I researched it. I was like, okay, well, let's just see what are the toxins in these products? What can I cut out? What's considered a toxin? And I'm not going to share any of those necessarily here. I think that if this is something you want to delve into, you can totally do that. This is more just like letting you in on this part of my life and sharing why this is so important to me. Not instructing you on what to do or the changes you should be taking, just the ones that I've taken based on the research that I've done in an effort to have another baby. So over the course of the last 2.5 years, I've switched out almost everything skincare wise to non-toxic alternatives. The only thing I have yet to switch is my face scrub. That one needs a little bit of work, I know. I have switched my shampoo and conditioner, switched out skincare. I've switched out all of our laundry products. Those are all natural. I just switched over to clean beauty because it is shown, it's scientifically shown. Of course, you gotta believe all the science facts that are spouted on the internet. No, you don't, you should go research them. That the toxins that we have in our home, in our products around us each and every day can impair fertility. So I've done my best to really kind of lean into that and clean up as much as possible. Of course, throughout this journey, like I don't want to be wasteful with anything. I have been using the rest of certain products until they're gone, so I'm not like throwing away a half full bottle of a cleaning product, but once that is empty, replacing it with a cleaner alternative. I think that there should be a balance between like heading towards clean and being sustainable. I don't know, I'm still kind of torn on that one because I'm like, why expose myself longer if I don't have to, but I also don't want to just throw it away. Like I said, this whole thing's a work in progress. But then, still no baby. I'm like, I'm doing all the stuff, I'm getting rid of all the bad stuff and switching over to the good stuff, but still no baby. What is happening? And I mean, that we're talking tears, we're talking frustration, we're talking like just this, I mean, it's been an agonizing couple of years. Then I dove into learning about my body and my cycles and like, what is my body telling me, learning the different signs and symptoms. And I went through quite a long phase where I was checking my basal body temperature and tracking, and then looking for the spike for when I was ovulating, and I just found that doing that every day completely consumed me. I was constantly aware of what my body was doing and what it wasn't doing, and what phase I was at, and taking notes and like marking things down on the app and my phone. And I use Kindara, by the way, in case anyone's looking. But it was becoming something that like I was researching all the time. I was tracking every single day. I even got a temp drop, which is like an armband that you put on. I'm like showing where it goes, to track my temperature, and using that. And there's all these Facebook groups. Oh my gosh, like fertility Facebook groups are crazy. And they're so regimented about what they do and how they do it, and you have to do it this way, and some of them are so regimented about what they do. And I went through a crazy season of that. And it wasn't good. It wasn't good for my emotional health. It wasn't good for my marriage. It just was something that was too consuming. It was too much. So I put the armband away, closed out the app, and just rested. And it's probably been a year since I've used Temp Drop, because I just emotionally couldn't handle it. I couldn't handle paying attention to that every single day. I couldn't handle writing that down and seeing like, was this the spike? Was that the spike? You know, it was too much for me emotionally. And I know it's a great solution for a lot of people, but I can't live it. I can't live in it and sit in it every day. I almost can't even make this video. The next part of my journey had to do with what I was eating and how often I was eating it. And now my battery's dying. Fantastic. So then after taking some time to like rest and recover from what was a very intense season of trying to conceive, I dove back in again. I was like, okay, we're making strides in this area. We're making strides in this area. I've chilled out a little bit in this area. What's something else? Is there something else I'm missing? Is there something else that I could be doing? I still haven't cleaned up all the toxins and everything that we have in our home. I still have Windex, and I literally just got clean beauty products like a month ago. So it's still a journey, it's still a process, but I'm like, okay, I've made these incremental shifts over the last several years. What is another thing that I can do? And that's when I learned about pro-metabolic eating. Now this has only been within the last 6 months that I've learned anything about this. So for a long time, and I mean, I'm talking years and years and years, over a decade, I have accidentally intermittent fasted. I say accidentally because it's just not something I ever thought of. I never ate breakfast. For a super, super long time, I just didn't eat breakfast. I didn't see the point. I'm like, I'm not that hungry, whatever. I can't believe that there's another. I'm literally filming on a different day to avoid the gardeners next door, and somehow he's still here. And when the girls were little, I almost was proud of myself for not eating as much. I almost felt like if I didn't eat as much, we didn't spend as much money on food. It wasn't about my body figure, or it wasn't about my body necessarily. It was like, if I eat less, we spend less money on food. It wasn't a purposeful choice. I hadn't eaten breakfast in years, even before having them. So it wasn't like, I'm like, now that I have children, I'm choosing to skip a meal so they could have more. That was never the thing. It just was like, hey, now there's a valiant reason for why I'm not eating that. There's more fruit for the kids, great. And then life would get full, and I'd go through seasons where I was eating one meal a day. I wouldn't have breakfast, I wouldn't have lunch, and I would have a hearty dinner. Still good food. I mean, like I said, for a couple years ago, we made the choice to cut out toxins in food, and I was still eating good quality food. But what I came to find is that I wasn't eating enough of it. You see, what I was telling my body by my eating habits was like, you are kind of in starvation mode. There are a lot of people who will still swear by the intermittent fasting diet. That's fine. I'm not here to change your mind. I'm just here to share my process and my story. So what I was telling my body was, you do not have enough nutrients available to host a child. You are not giving yourself enough food to sustain another living being. And at this point, a lot of people would say, but you already have kids. You've already been pregnant twice. You know, like that doesn't make any sense. And I think a lot of people have this like black and white approach to health. Like, well, it's happened before, or that's never happened before, so I don't understand why it would happen now, as if health is a switch that goes on or off. Whereas instead, it could be something like, for lack of a better term, like buildup, like plaque buildup, where over time, damage happens. So it's not like a switch goes off and all of a sudden you were once healthy and now you no longer are. And it was just like that, but instead it's over a season of time. So it could have been, you know, even since high school, not eating breakfast, where my body slowly got to the point where it's like, hey, we can't keep doing this. Like, we can't keep making eggs every single month, because like you've literally had us in this zone for, I'm not gonna say how many years, but enough years for my body to be like, probably not a good idea for us to keep this factory moving, okay? So I decided that I would simply try to eat more often. I decided I would eat breakfast. And this is also a season where my anxiety was skyrocketing, like through the roof. And I would have times in the morning where I couldn't even function. I mean, I would just look at my husband and just kind of shake my head and kind of keep my eyes closed. My face would go numb. My heart rate would increase. I couldn't function very well. And obviously I say that because if you couldn't tell, it was a little bit of foreshadowing. So I made the commitment to eat breakfast. Just eat breakfast. And a lot of the accounts that I follow when it comes to pro-metabolic eating suggest that you eat within the first 30 to 60 minutes. I'm doing my best to not hold myself to any regimented standards of like, you have to do this or it will not work. I'm giving myself grace in the meantime, because I tried to be regimented during a portion of this and it didn't help me. I know myself well enough that I have to make gradual changes. So I started eating breakfast. And what's funny about once I ate breakfast, I was actually hungry for lunch or hungry for a mid-morning snack. And pro-metabolic eating it's not a diet. It's just like, if you're hungry, feed yourself. Feed yourself good things. Be intentional about what you're putting into your body. Make sure it has nutrients, minerals, vitamins. It's not just garbage, but make a concerted effort to eat when your body was hungry. And it was as if I was relearning this mentality in my head, where before I used to kind of reward myself in a way for being like, hey, like, it's cheaper if you only eat one meal, to now eating 3 and snacks. That one's, it's still in here. It's still, I mean, it's not a healthy perspective to have about food. It's it's kind of like a vulnerable thing to share, because saying it out loud sounds so wrong. But I know someone else watching this is going to hear that and go, aha, yep. I hear that, I understand that, I know that feeling. Just because it's what's rattling around in my brain doesn't make it right, but doesn't stop it from rattling around in my brain. So as I'm eating more, I'm putting on weight. And then it's like this whole new, like, oh snap, I'm still in that. I'm not on the other side of that. I'm still, you know, when your favorite high-waisted jeans just like, not anymore. That's the current phase that I'm at. I'm grateful for what my body is doing, and I'm doing my best to remove the plaque buildup of all of the bad habits I've had over the last 15 years. But I'm still not okay with my new normal, where I'm currently at. It's a work in progress. But the incredible thing that I found is that it has lowered my anxiety to almost nothing. Because when I was putting my body through not eating enough, my cortisol levels were spiking. I was going through these fight or flight modes, and in the morning I would have 2 cups of coffee on a completely empty stomach, and I wondered why every single morning my anxiety would kind of get a little bit higher, and I was like, it can't be the coffee. I've had coffee just by itself every morning for years, so it can't be the coffee. And I had to kind of rework where my mind was at, where it's like, maybe you've just worn away all your reserves. Maybe you are no longer capable of doing this. Maybe this is a buildup instead of a switch being turned. Maybe you've gradually gotten here and you need to figure out a way to get out. I was taking CBD to help my anxiety. I would go to quiet places. I would try to slow down the amount of work that I had in the morning and take like really slow mornings, and wouldn't even get started until like early afternoon when my anxiety had kind of curbed. And I wasn't putting two and two together because I was convinced that health was a switch. I was convinced that if I had done this for years, that it couldn't possibly be that. It couldn't possibly be coffee. It couldn't possibly be an empty stomach because I've always done this, so why would that be the case? And yet making that small and simple shift of feeding my body when it's hungry has taken away my anxiety. Obviously, we're a couple years into this and there's no change. I know a lot of people would say, well, you already have beautiful, healthy children. Like, you know, you should be grateful. I am, but I think it's also okay to mourn and to be sad. And I think it's okay to want more kids. And I think it's okay to be sad not being able to have more. I'm sharing all this because one, like, now you know when I talk about clean beauty or cleaning products, you know it's because I want to have a baby. And then of course, like secondary to that, like it just cleans up our life in general, which makes it our home a healthier place for our kids to be. But in addition to that, if you do find yourself in a position where you end up being on this same journey of trying to conceive or infertility, that my story might be a little bit helpful for you. Maybe you can condense everything I've learned in the last 2.5 years to a much shorter time frame than I have, because it's been long. And I don't know, I kind of feel like there are days when I've completely given up hope, where it's like the girls are 11 and a half. Like, that's a massive age gap. I don't know if I want to do that anymore. I don't know if I want to have another kid. I don't know if I want to go through all of that again. And then I have moments where I'm like, I couldn't imagine not doing it again, you know? So, I don't know what this video is. I don't know if it's a story time or educational. I like to put things into boxes in my mind, but I figured I'd just give y'all a quick catch up. Yeah, that's where we're at. I don't know where I go from here, but I'm gonna do my best to continue to research and make changes that will improve our family immensely. So I don't know where this journey will lead, but I do know that having my anxiety be almost completely eradicated by just that one simple step of actually eating when my body is hungry, I am so grateful. I am so grateful. I'm grateful for the example I'm setting for my children. I'm grateful for the fact that we have cleaned up a lot of products in our home. I am grateful for the fact that I am trying to reduce the toxins that are around my husband and my children as well as myself. So even if number 4 doesn't come out of this, which we'll cross that bridge when we get to it, at least my body is healthier, my children are healthier, and we're going to continue to make steps to make sure that this is something that we can sustain as a family, and we're going to keep doing it. I'm going to keep trying, and we're flawed and we're not perfect, and you know that we're still going to go out to eat, we're still going to go through drive-thrus, I'm still gonna have a soda like once a year, I guess. Well, I don't remember the last time I had one, but like I'm giving myself permission if I want to. It's fine. I just figured I'd let you into a part of my story and a part of my journey that freaking sucks. But I've learned a lot along the way. So if there is someone who's going through this, hopefully this helps, gives you a couple ideas, things you might be able to try. Maybe you'll be more successful than I have been so far. I mean, I hope and pray that you are more successful more quickly than we have been. But even if you're not personally on this journey, thank you for being on it with me and for allowing me a space where I feel safe enough to share this, because this is some tough stuff to talk about and I don't know how to close out this video, so I am just going to go. Thank you so much for watching. I super appreciate it. And until next time, bye guys.